you by Pfizer.
In this video, you're going to see the future.
U.S. Treasury is higher.
Breaking news. We've got a livestock there.
Hello there, you awakening wonders. Thank you for joining us for 2024. Surely this is not a time for resolution, but for revolution. What is the point in us, I don't know, losing a little bit of weight or drinking less if we have to live in a world of total madness and corruption? Of course, it is a year of elections, or will it be a year of insurrections? Or are all protests now regarded as insurrection? We've got some fantastic information for you today. Of course, we're going to be talking about the ultimate naughty or nice list. We're going to be talking about the list that even Oscar Schindler would envy. It's Epstein's list. But can we get some clarity and truth and honesty? Of course, we are joined live now. Live by you. More important than any guest that we could announce. You, the great collective. You, the true global community. You, the true solution to globalist conspiracy. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be available for about 15, 20 minutes there on YouTube. Then the Rumble community will remain. People like Einstein Universe. Welcome back, Russell, and your team of brilliant collaborators. And that is how I regard them. Back there is a team of cracked, well, I don't want to say crack, that's the wrong way of describing them, elite contributors. I'm just watching their faces now, baffled like an animal confronted with a metronome. What we have is a team of brilliant journalists, a team of insightful radicals, a team of fantastic technicians bringing us interesting information. Reliquary Prime, is Russell a Cossack now? I believe the Cossacks are Russian, and as you know, the Russians from Tchaikovsky to Solzhenitsyn are undeniably evil. That's how it works, isn't it now? Surely. Whole nations, whole swathes disregarded. Yeah, like a dog showing a card trick. That's better, Plinky Plonk, 67. That's why I need to rely on you. And you're right, the A-Team, crack commando unit. That is what I was trying to say. This is good. We should workshop this stuff. Hey, if you are not yet a member of our Stay Free, Awakened Wonder community, consider joining us over on Locals. We're doing in real life events. We're coming back together. We are going to be cuddling right up, maskless, distanceless. That's right, those problems are all behind us. We are unifying, we are creating a movement. Unified but decentralized and against corruption. Finally, climate change scientists have solved the problems that are bringing us to the brink of Armageddon. Let's have a look at that. It's breathing, it's you. Stop breathing. If only we could all become like Wim Hof and retain our breath for minutes on end, everything would be okay. Do you think that that's a little more telling than they intended it to be? We just would like you to stop breathing. You will stop breathing and you will be happy. You will be an autonomous drone. You will repress your divine spirit. You will cast aside the inborn rights of every individual and the connection to the sacred that is endowed upon you by your limitless creator, and you will stand there with your tag in hand, an obedient little prisoner of the system. How did you celebrate New Year's Eve? Was it by pledging your allegiance to the system? Christian 01234, keep preaching. We are preaching, we are teaching, we are reaching, and hopefully we're not leeching, because we have to now build new economies. We have to build adjacent systems, adjacent currencies, adjacent democracies, adjacent justice, because otherwise, look at the alternative. Freedom! You are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you. Another year, same old conformity, same old opportunity to become a drone in a cell, in the hive mind, to become endowed and embalmed in the fluid, that pink fluid that Neo's in. That's the image that always comes to mind. It's one of those things I mention a lot. Look, was it better on Mar-a-Lago? Was it? Was Mar-a-Lago a better place? Mar-a-Lago, beautiful New Year, beautiful. Like, do you know what went on at Mar-a-Lago in 2024? You'll be aware by now that Vanilla Ice performed there, and no problem, that's all cool. But Look at Donald Trump. I don't think he's enjoying it that much. He looks the same as when he's, when you see Donald Trump sort of at court and he's sort of like, looks like a bit above it and like he's not taking it seriously. That's how he's treating his own New Year's Eve. Look at this.
Ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby. You ready? Oh, stop. Collaborate and listen. Hey!
He's not into it, is he? He's not stopping or he's stopping. He's not collaborating. Is he listening? We can't tell. I think that he's probably afraid to collaborate in case that goes against him as a further January 6th style indictment. Did Trump collaborate and listen to the January 6th insurrectionists? And what a journey we've been on. Is it 3 years already since January 6th? It's got to be, isn't it? 3 years already. Still hysteria. We'll be talking about that a little later. We'll be talking about Doe 36. Doe, a deer, a female deer, right. We'll be talking about Doe 36, you know who that guy is. It's interesting, isn't it, the way that the Epstein story has been used, the revelation that potentially Epstein was a CIA operative. We'll be getting into maybe Mossad. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. 1 for CIA, 2 for Mossad, 3 for both, because the whole thing's an interconnected system. Alex Jones was right. Problem is Alex Jones does keep being right, doesn't he? Welcome to the chat, Comic Cassia. Welcome to the chat, Mama Arico. Welcome to the chat, No Gibbs, Machiavelli 13. All of you. A lot of you saying 3. A lot of you are saying 3 in the chat now. And hey, our speed, the delay speed is better. We're seeing the things quicker. And over in the Stay Free chat, there's Jews Love and Yogi Gary and Miscad. These are our supporters, so we love them, but we love all of you because we've got to create something fantastic. Hey, what was Joe Biden's favourite part of 2023? Oddly, it seems to be something that happened 25 years ago. What I want you to pay attention to here is Jill Biden. Like, my nan, God rest her eternal soul, had Alzheimer's. Well, I think it was Alzheimer's. I don't know. We didn't get around to sort of. We didn't diagnose stuff as much in them days, did you? Just like, oh, you're old. You shouldn't be in charge of an entire country. Do not give this person access to a nuclear armory, and certainly do not let them become the centrifugal point of a whole global ideology. Anyway, when my nan, I would say, probably had Alzheimer's, like, we used to, when she would say stuff, I used to feel like, oh no, my nan, my lovely nan. Look at Jill Biden's face, and does she recognise what we call grandma dread?
As you look back and reflect on 2023, what sort of memories, highlights stand out for you?
Well, one of the big highlights stands out for me is my dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than the paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect.
Job's a lot more than the paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about what?
So many people through the Midwest and the center of the country, their factories are shipped overseas the last couple of times.
Jill's getting annoyed now, isn't she? She's getting irritated. She's trying to be supportive, but what must Jill Biden think when he embarks on these monologues?
And they were losing hope and faith. So we brought a lot of jobs back to the United States. People are in a position to be able to make a living now, and they've created a lot of jobs, over 14 million.
So I suppose what he's saying is his favourite thing about 2023 is that he somehow galvanised and rebooted the economy. Is that what happened? Because a lot of you seem to be saying that Corn Pop was right. That's what I'm seeing again. I do not want to see the name Corn Pop in that Rumble chat. Corn Pop was, I think, a bad dude. I think a record show.
And I guess when I just feel good that the American people got up. They've been...
Yeah, Super Bowl. I enjoyed the Super Bowl. Don't say something that's 25 years ago and complicated and confusing. Now, look at how the Epstein list is being eked out. And many of you tell me, stop talking. I've told you, I'm seeing nothing but Corn Pop and Let's Go Brandon in this chat. Guys, grow up. This is not a place where you express free speech, where you reach it. Oh, no, it is that. It is that. It is that. Hey, did you see when Bill Clinton got asked about the Epstein list and whether or not he's Doe 36? For a moment, his face is, I would say, wildly inappropriate. Now, as well as observing Bill Clinton's face, I want you to think of the general ambience of Hillary Clinton when Hillary Clinton is continually saying stuff like, oh, watch out for these MAGA extremists, and, you know, we're shattering the glass ceiling. So have a look at Bill Clinton's, it's number 6, yeah? Let's have a look at Bill Clinton's face. The first flash of it is, like he said, it's like he remembers the island and just thinks that was the best damn vacation of my life. Check it out.
Any comments on the alleged allegation of your connection with Jeffrey Epstein?
I think the evidence is clear, Bill. I think it is clear. He looked so happy, didn't he, about that? Like, before he was like, oh, no, I wasn't meant to go on that holiday, was he? Like, for a minute, it was just like, oh, that was one hell of an island. Like, he might as well have put a lei round his head and done some Hawaiian dancing. He was banging to it. Hey, what was number 5? It was some more stuff about Epstein's list. Oh, the news. Do you want to see the legacy media talking about it? Here's how the legacy media are. Look, the legacy media knew about these stories for possibly a decade. This is the kind of stuff, when you used to see, I have to, give them props, Alex Jones, David Icke saying there are literal rings of like famous people and powerful influential figures that are going to islands and having sex with underage, children, let's face it. Like, all the time that was happening, we were told by the legacy media, those people are lunatics, those people are crackpots. Well, now the legacy media are sort of trying to eke their way through the story, throw away a few scraps, but it's real journalists, real independent journalists like Whitney Webb who revealed the truth and the extent of it. And what we're asking is, do you think that Epstein's a CIA asset? Loads of you think that, right? Loads of you think that Epstein was that is my dog just farted. I swear to you, I'm not just saying this because Gareth's in the room. I know, Gareth, I just don't see you that way. I think you would rather pass out than fart publicly. But this guy down here, my dog, he's given me a lot of trouble. Anyway, let's have a look at how the legacy media are reporting on Epstein, controlling it and mitigating it. If you're one of our awakening wonders over there on YouTube, we love you, we value you. We'll be with you for a few more minutes on that platform. Then we will be exclusively streaming live over in that sweet stream of freedom that is Rumble. Let's have a look.
The Epstein documents were released today, making public the names of almost 200 people associated with disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. A court released the unredacted.
Still calling him a financier. I'm simply a financier. What are you financing? Child prostitution? It's a racket.
Names that include some anticipated names like former President Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and Limited Brands founder Lex Wexner. Some notable new names include lawyer and law professor Alan Dershowitz, former U.S. Senator George Mitchell, former New Mexico governor, the late Bill Richardson, and magician David Copperfield.
Oh, well, at least it explains how they managed to murder him in prison. How the hell did they get into a maximum security prison and get rid of that guy? How dare you? How dare you expose me? Riddle me this. Also, Statue of Liberty's disappeared. David Copperfield. Finally, most of the people they've thrown to the lions were, in fact, dead, aren't they? I mean, I know a lot of you are having fun about Stephen Hawking and everything and what he was doing on that island, but the salacious stuff is interesting. We're all intrigued by the sort of prurient intrigue around the erotic stuff and the illegal, violent activity. But what about the power? What about how this potentially was a Mossad CIA operation that facilitated blackmailing? Again, one of those stories that was way, way, way in the realm of conspiracy theory for the longest time. And now, hello, 2024, you've finally landed in the land of conspiracy fact. Listen to this piece of reporting from our friends over on Public. That includes great, legit journalists like Schellenberger and Taibbi. The release of new court documents from a lawsuit related to Jeffrey Epstein last week provided little, if anything, new fodder for conspiracy theorists. This is the New York Times. Fodder for conspiracy theorists who remain fixated on Mr. Epstein's dealings more than 4 years after his death. So that's the New York Times. Oh, get over it. God, it's just a guy who committed numerous egregious sex crimes and managed to get really peculiar sentences like community service for stuff that was out there. Terrible, heinous criminality. He's just friends with Bill Gates and Bill Clinton. He's just got an island. He's just plainly got a relationship with the CIA. And before you suggest that the CIA would never engage in that kind of activity, that the CIA would never be involved in what they refer to as honey traps or sometimes honey pots. I don't like either of those phrases, but I suppose honey trap is better because then at least the second part of the phrase refers to what it actually is, a trap. Whereas if you say honey pot, it's either literally a pot or what is the pot in that idiom or that sort of piece of language. So I don't know. Answers on, let us know in the stream, you filthy perverts. The CIA this is from the same article on Public. The CIA has a long record of using sexual blackmail. In 1975, the Washington Post reported that for years the CIA had operated love traps in New York City. Love Trap is a little old place where Bill Clinton spoils his marriage. Love Trap, baby. What's that? Now, it's time for a sax solo. Going over to Baker Street via Epstein Island, baby. So love traps, operated love traps in New York City and San Francisco. Bloody good locations for them, I would say. For years, the CIA had operated them where foreign diplomats were lured. Right, listen to this. This is documented and proven. Where the CIA would lure foreign diplomats using prostitutes in the pay of the CIA, which ultimately means your taxpayer dollars, not only Afghanistan, not only ongoing Ukrainian stuff, not like bloody prostitution for foreign diplomats in San Francisco. Who's funding? It's a hell of a spread. Who's funding all this? Why, the American taxpayer, of course. The goal of this secret operation, the Post explained, was to entrap these diplomats. Through hidden one-way mirrors, CIA agents filmed the sexual adventures and later tried to blackmail victims into becoming informants. What kind of country are we living in? I can't believe it. The CIA also ran a sub-project of MK Ultra called Operation Midnight Climax, grow up, from 1955 to 1965. This project, the San Francisco Chronicle reported, was a top-secret mind control program in which CIA agents used hookers to lure unsuspecting Johns from North Beach bars to what they called the pad, then dosed the men with LSD and observed the X-rated goings-on through a two-way mirror while sitting on a portable toilet, swilling martinis on your tax dollars. CIA agents. Delicious. Oh my God, that's disgusting. You shouldn't be doing that. Oh, you definitely shouldn't be doing that. Can I get another olive in here? And what about those diplomats going from a perfectly fantastic evening? Oh my God, I'm out of my mind. This is Sergey. What a wonderful evening we are having. Shall we do another tab? Magnificent. Suddenly these women find me very attractive. Hell, now listen, this is not going to look good in the papers. Oh, sorry. Vladimir will not be pleased with that. You better start complying. That's what we're funding for our taxpayer dollars. I'm not naive enough to think that the UK government don't get engaged in similar operations. Look at the way that the legacy media failed to report on that for a decade. And you think you can trust them? You think that you can take their priorities and their narratives? You think that the legacy media ain't got skin in the game when it comes to constructing narratives that keep you despondent, distracted, low energy, distracted and disheartened, unable to participate in society? We must take back our freedom. We've got to take back our freedom. When's we going to take it back? It's going to be the year 2024. Jude the Brain in the Rumble chat, simply perverts. Just one word. That's enough. Your stream on YouTube has 3,000, but on Rumble it's 14,000. That is because the revolution is happening. If you are an Awakening Wonder over on YouTube, join us over on Rumble where we can speak a little more freely. We just do about another 10 minutes over here and then we'll be bang at it. Scruffy B, thanks for the $1 tip. I hope that's not because I was talking about all that CIA stuff. You imagine yourself pushing that dollar down the front of my oft-reported on white Y fronts. Absolutely astonishing and scandalous. Anyway, it's chat like this that makes me grateful that the present administration would never get involved in any skullduggery of that nature. Now you have a decent president who believes in democracy, who believes in freedom. Why? You only have to look at his campaign ad to know that Joe Biden is creating a better America for everybody.
I've made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency.
Even in a pre-recorded ad, it doesn't sound that clear. I made the preservation of American democracy. Can we do that again? Well, no.
I believe in free and fair elections.
Do you, though?
And the right to vote fairly. And
what about the laptop? What about the repressing the laptop story? What about not turning up for the bloody primaries in Florida? What about trying to get Donald Trump kicked off every single ballot? Come on.
Have your vote counted. There's something dangerous happening in America.
You better believe it.
There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching. The world is watching. And most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice
It's a miracle he didn't lean over and sniff that kid on the head.
President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration. And
RM Grum, $7 for a pound of butter. It's not good enough, is it? And then Michael Joel 12, the gaslighting's getting so old. It's not good enough, is it? We need to decentralize power. We need to examine the legitimacy of some of these organizations. Do you think that the CIA can be reformed, or do you think that the CIA needs to be abandoned? One or two. If you think that the CIA can be reformed, one. If you think that the CIA should be scrapped, two. Let me know in the Rumble chat, guys.
ask every American to join me in this cause. America is still a place of possibilities where the power resides with we, the people. That's our soul. We are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
You sure though, Joe? Are you sure that you do? Have you even watched the full video? Could you stay awake during that thing? Hey, guess who we got coming up in a little bit? We got my friend and yours, Greg Gutfeld, coming on the show for a sneak preview, an extended preview of our show on Friday, where I've got a fantastic conversation with Greg Gutfeld that you will love. Now, 1/3 of adults now say that Biden's election was illegitimate. There he is, the other fella. The MSNBC host Jonathan Capehart got emotional discussing events of January 6th. Have you seen this? Like, look, January 6th, some people might think, oh, it was a riot. Some people think it's a protest. Evidently, some people have a vested interest in conveying and portraying it as an insurrection. One thing it wasn't is that sad. I mean, it wasn't that sad, was it? Like those people. I mean, did you see Norm Macdonald's tweet? Can we show the Norm Macdonald tweet first? Like God rest his eternal soul. Norm Macdonald is number 9. Have a look at this. This is what Norm, God rest his soul. I loved when violent terrorists made sure to respect the velvet ropes in Statutory Hall. Right, look at that. They are big. Look, someone taking photos. Like, that probably don't look that different from any other tour, I imagine, in that building. And remember, this is an establishment building that's used to legitimize corruption. Yeah, Gutfeld. That's right, Gutfeld. Yeah, he's coming on. Why are you saying Gutfeld, Wassad, with a bunch of question marks? Yeah, I like him. He's a good guy. So, I'm not sure. Maybe you do as well. Maybe you're excited about it. So, check it. And now check out this thing from MSNBC. Look at this guy.
I'm going to try to get through this. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today. Please tell me.
I had a baby born this year under pretty challenging circumstances, and I can talk about it like this. Yeah, it's okay. Great Ormond Street were fantastic. They did a wonderful job. Not like that. Like, not January 6th. Oh my God, that guy in the buffalo hat put face paint on, and the way that the FBI had insurgents in the crowd. Calm down, mate. It wasn't that bad. I mean, like, look, let's accept that a country as vast as America is going to have a variety of political perspectives, and that guy on MSNBC is entitled to his political perspective, but he does need some help with his emotion.
Your thoughts on this 3rd anniversary.
Well, how's he going to carry on with the rest of that conversation? I think Ray Epps is going to jail for 6 months, and DC U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves says the Department of Justice is now going to target Americans who were around the Capitol, people that were in, like, the rings of Saturn. Now it's just people that were in the aura of January 6th, people that sort of, like, went, ooh, like... Like, anyone, right? Were you alive during January 6th? Well, yeah, I was just a kid at the time. Right, well, you're going down for it. Donald Trump, though, is going to ensure safety and absolute democracy with literal stuff out of The Simpsons. Yes, it's The Simpsons politics made real once again. Trump's Iron Dome. Let's check this out. My favourite bit about this is he goes, bib did a bab did a boop, like how you operate the buttons. How you operate the buttons is a good bit. Bib did a bab did a boop. And then I think the dome going up is shh, or sheesh, or she. Like, it's a new noise from Trump, and that's always worth analysing.
World, we want to protect our country. And, you know, those domes are starting to work. I didn't like it when Ronald Reagan suggested it because we didn't have the technology. We do have the technology now. And we're going to build a giant dome over our country to protect us from a hostile source. And I think it's a great thing, and it's going to all be made in the United States.
Say hostile source. Like it's some sort of like a peri-peri.
And that's something that I consider productive. You know, when I watch our guys operate those things, it's unbelievable. Missile coming in. These geniuses sit down. Most of them are, you know, they're from MIT, but they sit down, bing, 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 boom.
Bing, 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 boof, she.
It's gone. It's amazing. I think we could use it. Do you like that?
That's the kind of thing that people like. That's where he engages an audience with. Do you like that? Look, he's actually focus grouping it live.
I mean, isn't that better than giving other countries billions of dollars, billions? We're going to.
When we've got access to the is this when they're talking about how get Trump off the ballot on MSNBC? Is this that stuff? Have a little look at this, guys, and then we are going to slink off over to Rumble, where we've got a fantastic story about the WHO and Pfizer vaccines. You're going to love that. We'll be getting into that. Plus, we'll talk a little bit more about Epstein. If you're not an awakened wonder yet, become an awakened wonder, and we'll see you. Oh no, we're not going to leave yet. Let's just show you this thing. Is this MSNBC talking about Trump and how you've got to have democracy, but you know what they want? They want a democracy where you can vote for one person, and that person is Joe Biden. How can that be democracy?
Lots of conversation about the 14th Amendment nowadays, directly connected to the actions of Donald Trump in the lead up to this day 3 years ago and what he did on that day, January 6th. Do you think he should be barred from any ballots given his actions on January 6th?
Well, I support every state taking very aggressive action to keep him off the ballot. He is undergoing court action across America. And I don't know that we have ever had a situation. Actually, I do know that we've never had a situation where a sitting president could be a convicted felon. And so the uncertainty that people are going to the ballot with is also unprecedented. Is he going to be on the ballot or not? Is he going to be disqualified? Are people going to vote for someone who's not eligible? And so all of those questions need to be answered before the American people go out to vote. But what I think is also very important is that people don't sit it out. I've heard too many people saying they're going to sit it out. People have to go out and vote. I remember how many of us couldn't believe that he won in the first place, and that's because there were too many people who just didn't think their vote mattered.
Well, I think history demonstrates that it does, in fact, make a difference.
It does matter.
Extraordinary when what's being offered as democracy is a ballot with one person on it, where Joe Biden will not debate even the other contenders and candidates from his own party, where RFK, in order to be heard, has to leave the Democrat Party, where they're cancelling the primaries in Florida, where Marianne Williamson is being marginalized. If you're a person that's from the right or the Republican Party, they'll say that you are racist. If you're within the Democrat Party, they'll say you're a crackpot. Like, I guess with Marianne Williamson, it's because she talks about spirituality. With RFK, because he talks about vaccines. So in the end, what you recognize is you've got a narrow tunnel of what is regarded as democracy, and that tunnel leads to establishment power uninterrupted. And it's going to be down to us, because the legacy media are not going to derail their cohorts, their fellow cartel members in state power or within corporate power. It's going to come down to you. Your individual consciousness is a valuable asset. That's why they're working so hard to control your consciousness, to control your attention and your mind through censorship laws, through protest laws, through shutting down independent media voices, indeed to a degree like this one. We've certainly experienced some considerable blowback. Let's get the timer on, for God's sake. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you just got another 30 seconds to click the button or click the link and join us over on Rumble. We've got Greg Gutfeld coming up. We're going to show you some of the interview we're going to show you, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. We're going to be talking about a fantastic story where Pfizer, it's not that good, actually. It's terrible what they did. They misled the public over the efficacy of their vaccines. Later in the week, we're going to be talking about the potential death toll. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you Awake and Wonder, click that link in the description. Join us over on Rumble right now. You're welcome here. Now, guys, if you're not yet an Awake and Wonder, we do need your support. We're going to begin in real life activity soon, but we're going to be doing it in the UK. We'll be streaming from here, but we want to know who's interested. And by the way, can I interest you in one of these? It's vodka. No, I mean the mug itself. We got some merch, baby, and it's fantastic stuff. Let me know. Russell Brand, where are the children of Lahina? I don't know. I would guess Lahina. I don't know what that means. We'll investigate it if you want. If you've just joined us from YouTube, get involved in the chat. If you're moving from Rumble over to the Awake and Wonder locals chat, get involved in there. There's some beautiful people like Davis 920, Zypher 2000, Firegirl 2020, Jumpin' Jeff's in there, for God's sake. Now, Now, a Texas lawsuit against Pfizer for misleading the public regarding COVID-19 vaccines is taking place, and a physician who had her license suspended for not following vaccine orders during the pandemic has spoken out about the WHO's proposed pandemic treaty. Now, when we talk to you about globalism, the WHO's pandemic treaty is one of the key pieces of globalist legislation around which we have to be aware. So let's have a closer look at that together. Because if you are opposed to the global elites, then you're going to have to educate yourself about this stuff. Here's the news. No, here's the effing news. Join us afterwards for a little more chat and Greg Gutfeld.
No, here's the fucking news.
Texas are suing Pfizer for being legally misleading about their recent product. The WHO treaty is just about to be passed, and if it is, you won't have any to truth and freedom. I'm so grateful that you're here today as we continue to awaken together. You'll notice that there is an awakening taking place because things that were regarded as unsayable and heretical just a couple of years ago are now right there in the legacy media, not by choice, but because of necessity, because independent media has brought these ideas to the forefront. And one such example is the state of Texas suing Pfizer for being misleading about vaccines. And yet, the WHO are still pushing a treaty that will mean that if your country, if you happen to live in a country that's a member state, and you probably do, then if the WHO say you've got to take vaccines, your country's got to do lockdowns, then that is what will happen. And your government will be able to abdicate responsibility entirely. You may have forgotten how many times during the pandemic period you heard the words, well, this is the WHO recommendation. This is what the WHO thinks. In fact, policies like lockdown and masking and social distancing and, of course, vaccines all came via the WHO. No matter how they arrived at your nation, they are all measures happen to be recommended and could soon be mandated by the WHO. So let's have a look at that lawsuit. Let's have a look at a physician whose license was revoked during the pandemic period for vaccine misinformation that turns out was simply foresight. And let's have a look at this new WHO treaty and what it will mean if it's passed and why we should oppose it.
New at 4, Attorney General Ken Paxton suing drug maker Pfizer. Paxton posted about it to social media, accusing the company of misrepresenting the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine and conspiring to censor public discourse.
The federal government long ago, back in I think the 80s, passed a law that gave protection to pharmaceutical companies when they provided vaccines. There's no liability, complete protection. However, under state law, they don't have those same protections. We have a Deceptive Trade Practices Act, and that's what we're suing them under, arguing that they did not tell our consumers in Texas the truth, and therefore there are damages because they didn't tell the truth about the effectiveness or the potential side effects of the vaccine. We think the number 95% was not a true number. It wasn't an accurate number. It wasn't a reliable number, and they knew it. That's our argument. They knew that it wasn't a reliable number, and therefore they misled consumers about the effectiveness. So people are making healthcare decisions that are pretty important, and they're taking on a vaccine that hasn't really been tested, and we don't know the long-term effects. Yet they knew some of the potential side effects, and they knew that it wasn't 95% effective. And so people are making their decisions based on believing that Pfizer is telling them the truth. And of course, then the Biden administration came in and started threatening people with their jobs. And we had other cities and states doing the same thing, forcing people to get this vaccine. And it was based on false information. And that's a real problem because it has long-term consequences for consumers in Texas. One of the good things about this litigation is it's going to bring out information that the public hasn't known. And we're going to make sure that information gets out. So at the very least, whether we win or lose, I think we're going to win. And potentially we'd have other lawsuits. But at the very least, the public can go, wait a minute, I'm going to be I'm going to be a lot more hesitant to trust the Biden administration next time, or any other government entity that tells me I have to get it, or I'm going to lose my job, or I have to get that pressure didn't add up.
So you've obviously witnessed this narrative evolve from a point where these are simply matters that couldn't be discussed to the point where there's legislation taking place at the level of the state. And yet the WHO treaty, if passed, will mean that your entire nation will be mandated to follow measures that they suggest. Thankfully, it is at least being publicly discussed, and at the moment we have the opportunity to potentially oppose it. This is Dr. Meryl Nass, who had her license revoked during the pandemic, articulating exactly why we should be be sceptical about this new WHO treaty, which seems to be just one of those insidious pieces of legislation that characterizes globalization. It just appears, passes, and all of a sudden you edge a little closer to autocracy without ever having voted it, which I suppose is the nature of tyranny.
We're undergoing a soft coup, and the idea is to create a whole new set of laws and ignore the existing human rights laws and other laws under the pretext of pandemic preparedness and the biosecurity agenda. The WHO is developing through all its nations, but with the WHO Directorate in the United States in charge, a pandemic treaty and amendments to the existing international health regulations that will remove the human rights protections currently embedded in the IHRs, will enforce surveillance, censorship, get rid of freedom of speech, require governments to censor and only push a single narrative. Also, we will be subject, if they can make this work, to vaccines developed in 100 days.
I think that the rise of populism is a response to this kind of globalist bureaucracy that the doctor here is describing. While the legacy media may continually, with great dread, tell us that Trump will lead us into a future dictatorship, or the rise of this right-wing faction or that group is responsible for the decline of society, I am more concerned about the insidious creep of global legislation that will mean that your media is controlled, that medical choices are taken, that taxation is taken from you, none of which is ever going to be voted for. In fact, you have to go online right now and sign a petition to oppose it. That's literally the only thing you can do. You've got to go and seek out democracy on the internet like you're looking for pornography.
Which the organization CEPI is planning to do. And one of the people who founded CEPI was Jeremy Farrar, who is now the chief scientist at the WHO, to bring this forward. Other things that amendments do is to bind the states so they're no longer recommendations but enforceable edicts.
I heard Dave Martin describing this treaty, and he said they just make minor amendments like this doctor is describing. It might have previously said, these measures will not be mandated. And all they have to do is take out the word not. They'll say, just a minor amendment, but this changes from will not be mandated to will be mandated. A pretty significant change. This woman is not engaging in histrionics. She's simply telling you about a treaty that she's read. Oh my God, if they make those changes, that means that if the WHO say this is a pandemic, they'll be able to say you can censor this kind of dissident information or misinformation or malinformation, whatever is the en vogue term at that time. These medications should be mandated, these lockdown measures should be enforced. And imagine in a world where we've all got digital IDs, what other measures might be proposed. You know that during the pandemic, vaccine passports became a hot topic, legitimized because of the necessity of it. But now we know, because of the Texas lawsuit, that they were wrong about the efficacy of those vaccines. They were wrong about it stopping transmission. It was wrong in so many ways. All of this is kind of being lost in a morass of misinformation, malinformation, and increasing cultural conflict around the world now. But the truth is that global regulations are currently being discussed and may yet be passed that will mean that the same and even worse could happen again. Imagine the Canadian trucker convoy. People just protesting, you can't do that, that's Nazi. Oh, let's report on it. You can't report on that, that's Nazi. Well, do we have to take this medication and I've got a respiratory condition or some preference or some religious idea? You do have to take. This is what's being presented to you, not via a political party that you voted for, not via some community action that you're a part of, but by a globalist entity that you do to some degree already fund, because that's where the WHO gets a significant portion of its money. Of course, you know where else they get it, answers in the chat. And they're now looking to leverage even more power over your individual and national life.
Provide a liability shield, get rid of intellectual property rights, move supplies from one country to another, enforce digital passports, and the Director General of WHO can demand that a pandemic or a potential pandemic exists. He can just declare it with no standards, and then countries around the world will have to obey. Also, the WHO will tell you what drugs you can and can't use.
For a minute, I imagined it was the band, The Who, and it was Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey. Can't trust them around drugs. Those guys are crazy. People try to lock us down. Well, let's be honest, it's us trying to lock you down.
In your nation, once a pandemic is declared, Obviously, the budget will increase.
This is precisely what I mean when I talk about establishment globalism. Unelected bodies proposing and then ultimately imposing regulation and laws on you as an individual and on your entire nation. And the reason that your government is not vociferously, loudly and continually opposing it is because they broadly agree with it, because it's part of a general neoliberal project to centralize power. When people talk about a new world order, let me know in the chat, do you think this is what they mean?
One Health is another part of this. One Health is a concept that was created to enable the WHO, with these documents, to take over jurisdiction of everything in the world.
It's a modest piece of legislation. What do you want to control? Oh, just everything in the world. Sign here.
By saying that climate change, animals, plants,
minerals, you know, all those guys.
Water systems, ecosystems.
Boys to Men, Monopoly, cats, orphan steers, old clock parts.
Are all central to health. Also embedded in this concept is a peculiar notion that humans are no longer of greater value than animals.
That's a weird thing to suddenly put in it. Also, we value animals now as highly as humans. What an extraordinary piece of legislation. Let me know if you think that this is precisely what globalism is. Is this why you've lost faith in neoliberal democracy? Is this why you suddenly have an interest in demagoguery and populist figures that are able to harness the emotion of a nation and say, I will change things, I will stand up for the people? Is this precisely the type of politics that we require? Do we need to stand up against these kind of globalist measures? And why aren't these things more widely discussed? Why are the legacy media not saying, hey, this WHO treaty seems to be pretty significant, given that it's going to make you less important than a hamster. It only wants to control things like animals, minerals and vegetables, like it's some sort of parlor game that wants control of total reality. Isn't that of some concern to you, given in particular the way that the last 3 years went down? All of the things that were blithely described and draconianly controlled as conspiracy theories, the legitimate studies that were ignored, the flawed studies that were amplified, the indemnity that was granted, the propaganda that reached fever pitch, all of this seems to have been conveniently forgotten as we usher in a new piece of legislation called a treaty that seems to be treating all of us literally like we're worse than animals. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the chat?
No, here's the fucking news.
I just see a comment in the Rumble chat. Where's the gut? The gut is coming. I'm just an Englishman enjoying a fine mug of tea from a fantastic piece of merchandising. Go, Texas, go, says Mac Truck 22. Justin Valentine, get ready for another pandemic when they want to steal another few $1 trillion. We've got a great story for you later in the week about turbo cancers. Have you heard about turbo cancers? It's Pfizer's next moonshot. Albert Baller's talking about it already. We're bringing you content on that. Did you see Eric Weinstein? Oh, no, it's Brett, wasn't it? Weinstein, when it's Brett. He corrects me all the time, but I can't ever remember which one I'm being corrected to. It's always the one that's not that one, isn't it? That's what they were. Harvey Weinstein. So it's Stein. Yeah, I can never work it out. Anyway, he's good. The gut, Mac Track 22. You got it, dancing pug. So, yeah, he's saying 17 million worldwide deaths. That's what he's saying. Excess deaths. Thanks, Audrey DB. Love the cup. Send us an address. We'll send one to you. Yeah, McSpicy, turbo cancer. It's the latest thing that they can kill us with now. Or at least Pfizer have made a $43 billion bet that is going to be the drug of the future. Where is the Feld? Chuck's Latin. I don't know. The Feld. Seinfeld. Gutfeld. Gutfeld. Ah, got it. Nice one, Chuck. Nice one. Yeah, you can get these mugs. They're available. Greg Gutstein. Nice. Very, very good. Good work. Good work. Right. Okay. So hold on. Let me read the rest of these comments. We never voted in the WHO, so why do they have control? R51. Yeah, exactly. Did you vote for NATO? No. Did you vote for the WHO? No. Did you vote for the WEF? No. So how come these people have got control over your life? How come they're getting control of your tax dollars? Why can't the Pentagon pass an audit? Whether they're national organizations such as the Pentagon and their MIC partners, or the FDA and their big pharma partners, or out-and-out globalist groups like the WHO, funded by your man, Bill Gates. No, it's not your man. Yep, the ICC, the IMF, the NO, all of this stuff, Alpine 619. This is is it. That's what we mean when we talk about globalism. We've got to decentralize. You've got to have democratic power in your own nation, in your own community. Fire Girl 2020, democracy dies, is what she's saying. Now, you know we can only bring you this fantastic content with our beautiful partners. And today I'm proud to tell you about Charlize, one of our new partners. Look at this extraordinary package. Now, let me tell you, even this is political because the New World Order, they're poisoning your food, your water, you know that. They're buying up your farmland. And now even your skincare is under threat. According to the FDA, companies in the US are allowed to market skincare products as non-toxic while still containing up to 49% toxic ingredients. And I'm sick of it, baby. These ingredients are illegal in Europe, what I live in, and other countries that I may not. These toxic ingredients and plastics could penetrate your skin, can you imagine, and immediately enter your bloodstream, disrupt your precious hormones before becoming embedded in your organs and may eventually give you terminal or illnesses. What's the solution? Well, our sponsors and partners, Charlene Bollinger, former model, current wife and mother, founder of The Truth About Cancer and Vaccines, so she's got form, has created a solution. Her work has been so effective that the Biden White House put them on the disinformation dozen just for telling the truth. I've got one of their products here. This one, let's make sure it's legit. This is a revitalizing daily moisturizer. Now, I've been awake all day and I need to be revitalized and moisturized. Oh my God, do you know what? Am I looking younger? Tell me in the chat. Gareth is nodding more enthusiastically than he responded to the accusation of that fart. Now, I'm telling you this because this is the most luxurious, toxic-free, anti-aging skincare line on our planet. Charlize is second to none. The oxygen serum is an infusion of oxygen which your body and skin need to be healthy and fight early signs of aging. It also includes the powerful ingredient, and I shouldn't really be telling you this, apple stem cells. Yeah, we're getting into Snow White territory now. We're getting into deep mythology to keep cutaneously impeccable. This dramatically halts early signs of aging and stops wrinkles in their tracks. Thus, we may remain beautiful forever. The Charlize toner not only lifts your skin, but it lifts your mood. Can you imagine that? It's a drug for your face. It boosts your serotonin levels. You will look great and feel great. Charlize, as you can see, is packaged beautifully. So you could buy this for the skin of someone you love, or perhaps someone that you are courting. Stop supporting companies that are slowly killing you with poisons and support instead Charlize. Let me tell you how you can get a little discount and a bargain. Go to charlize.beauty today and use the promo code BRAND to purchase this toxic-free luxury skincare line. That's charlize.beauty, or click the link right now below and use the promo code BRAND. You get 25% off your purchase right now. So, hey, did you guys watch the Golden Globes? No, because it's propaganda and we don't watch stuff like that anymore. Well, do you remember when Ricky Gervais used to do it? Ricky Gervais is causing outrage and controversy with his new specials. He's attacking cancel culture where it hurts. Let us reminisce just for a moment about the glory that is Ricky Gervais, my fellow Englishman, a great comedian and a great radical. Let's have a look at him and reminisce of some of the glory days of the Golden Globes. Also, we got the Gut coming up in a matter of minutes, and every day in 2024, we got to get above 24,000. We got to get to that 100,000 in the stream. You know that we're going to be doing Dan Bongino's coming on. What are we calling it? Brangino. Brangino, that's happening next week. Brangino is happening next week. Remember to let us know who you want. Why don't we, now that we've basked in the fantastic products of Charlize, let us bask in the glory of Ricky Gervais.
Our next presenter starred in Netflix's Bird Box, a movie where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing. Sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein. You did it. I didn't. You did it. Shut the f*** up. Please welcome Sandra Bullock.
I love it. I love it. He's coming for it. You did it. You did it. Amazing. He's got another one. Let's just revel in a bit more Ricky G.
No one cares about movies anymore. No one goes to the cinema. No one really watches network TV. Everyone's watching Netflix. This show should just be me coming out going, well done, Netflix, you win everything. Good night. But no, we got to drag it out for 3 hours. You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife instead of watching this show. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer. And it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way. So in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Yes, Ricky Gervais. It's a relief, isn't it? And a lot of you are chatting about Cat Williams in there as well. We've got to get Cat Williams on as a guest. Can we look at Cat Williams will come on here, won't he? Let's get him on. Fantastic. All right, you lot, listen. You've been asking for the gut. We got a full interview this Friday. Tomorrow we got another fantastic show where we're going to look a little bit at Chappelle's special and Ricky Gervais's special. We're going to be looking at 2024. Is it going to be the year of revolution or is it going to be the year of subjugation? Are we going to let them win? Are we going to let them turn us into drones? Or is this when we finally fight back? So make sure you join us every day. This is a fantastic conversation with Greg Gutfeld. We're talking about how the media space has been corrupted by wokeism. He'll be talking about Tucker Carlson. It's a fantastic, some fantastic revelations there. So enjoy this conversation, which you will be able to see in full on Friday. And remember, this is available as a podcast. So wherever you get your podcast, go and subscribe to us there as well, because it helps us. It makes us more powerful. The more support you give us, whether it's financial support over there by becoming an Awakened Wonder. By the way, the monthly, you can join just for a month now as well as for a year. So join us over there as an Awakened Wonder, or you can you can join for the whole year, which is better for us. But do subscribe to our content wherever you can, even just on Rumble. Subscribe to it and like it now. Russell, get Ricky on. I think I love Ricky, and I'll see if I can get him on soon. I've probably got to get through all this madness, all the attacks and everything. I want to welcome some of our new members like Wimpy84, Nicole McDonald, Eric Bischoff, Fox Taku42, DCLT 2021. So before we wrap up here, enjoy this beautiful 15 minutes of me and Greg Gutfeld. And by the way, Jackie963, I've seen your Lahina stuff, or Lahina to say it correctly, and we will look into it, and we will try and get Cat Williams on the show as well. We're going to try and do all that stuff. Here's a bit of conversation with me and Greg Gutfeld to wet your whistles before Friday. Get it down, yeah. Get yourself a Stay Free mug. Stay free, guys. What better way to start 2024 with a very, very popular guest, Greg Gutfeld.
I'm very excited to be here. I love you, Russell.
I'd like to take this opportunity to unreservedly apologise to you. You don't look like an anus.
I can't even remember why I was shitting on you, even though we've had a checkered past.
We're talking about how media is used to legitimise censorship and control. There's a lot to talk about. Is it true that you suppress the lab leak theory, even though you yourself suspected that it might be true?
Entertainment media will make sure you get punished if you veer off the Kimmel Colbert plantation.
These are sort of death knell cultural moments of like, oh shit, people can bypass it. Greg, hey, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm very excited to be here. I love you, Russell. Even though we've had a checkered past, I've always loved you.
It's interesting, isn't it? We are, in a sense, I would say, very much the Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor of the world of punditry, shall we say? Because yeah, you and I remember, like you say, I remember the first time I was aware of you. You were saying, I knew this guy when I lived in the UK. I liked him then, and now he's become an asshole, I think, or an ass at least. And like I was like, oh, what's going on? And but actually, it's like, do you think, what does this indicate? Has the culture changed? Because I suppose you would have once been, given that I first saw you on Fox News, associated with, we all know what we associate Fox News with. Is it libertarianism? Is it populism? Is it conservatism? Is it sort of like right-wing Christianity? There's a sort of a whole group of ideas around Fox News. And then and I was a sort of exiled from Hollywood, brattish show-off, online. So, and yet somehow we've found ourselves agreeing about a lot of issues. What do you think's changed in the culture, Greg, for us to have found this alliance?
That's a good question. I feel like I was always an oddball in any employment I was in. I mean, I was the editor of Men's Health, and I was smoking and drinking. When I was at Maxim, I was engaging in mostly homoerotic humor to subvert the audience. And at Fox, I wasn't like the other anchors. And I was always interested in you. I always found you interesting. And I knew there was something there that I identified with. And I think that's why I was so frustrated when I can't even remember why I was shitting on you. I can't remember why, but this is the flaw of doing 24-hour cable news. I probably saw a clip and I needed to fill a bucket. And so I used that clip And then I go, this guy, who knows what you were talking about? You probably don't even remember. I don't remember. But that's what we did. And then you see it, you go, wow, why is this guy doing it? And then you came back and then you said I had a face like an anus. And which in some ways is realistic. There's an orifice.
That's everyone's face, Greg. That's not unique to you. You don't look like an anus, and I'd like to take this opportunity to unreservedly apologise to you for being rude. And I think what the videos were, it was when Bill O'Reilly was the most prominent Fox News voice, and I used to, I think, do little videos commenting on Bill O'Reilly's content, but also the same way that I've always done with sort of, let's call them Fox-style pundits, over time and while watching them, developing a kind of affection, because I'm old enough to recall that when a family would contain people that were of the left and of the right, and that wouldn't be cause for actual hatred and condemnation. You wouldn't refer to people who had different political views as a basket of deplorables. You wouldn't say that half of the population shouldn't be allowed to vote or should be debugged. You wouldn't escalate a kind of a populist demagogue to the sort of heights of a 20th century military dictator. Everything has become more incendiary, more conflagratory, I would say. So it's like then, even 10 years ago, when we were first communicating, albeit through aggressive hit pieces on one another, the world was less filled with invective, and something's become concentrated and amplified, Greg, hasn't it?
Yeah, you know what it is? You could trace it back to the phrase political correctness, because that used to be a positive attribute in the sense that I'm morally superior to you and you have to reach this point, but then I keep getting higher. And then that turned into, well, the political became so personal. And you were supposed to keep it separate. Like when you talk about family gatherings, you could have Bill O'Reilly as your uncle, and I could be your nephew, and it didn't really matter. And you would sit at the table and your Uncle Bill would spout about immigrants and you would be whatever, and then you would move on to sports. But in this case, now everything is a moral judgment. I can't sit at the same table with that person. And then that escalated to, this person is evil, and I have to cut that person out of my life. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing now, is especially in this hyper woke thing. It's like, we cannot have a discussion, period. And in fact, the discussion lends itself to oppression. Just merely questioning something is an attack. And but the response, there's a really positive thing going on. The response of mockery and humor is taking that away, because even Bill Maher's noticed it. They're no longer funny because of this moral hysteria. And so all of their targets now, it's flipped. It's now like the radicals are I wouldn't say on the right, but libertarian, free thinking, illiberal. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, there's a few phrases that I think are useful around here. I heard the brilliant comedian Duncan Trussell say once, people have gone from woo to Q. Like people that were previously kind of into meditation and psychedelics have become very anti-establishment now. There's this entirely new demographic. And the other aspect of this is this hyper moralizing, virtue signaling, sort of, and I would say it's a media construct, and and potentially a movement with academia. Certainly, that would be the analysis of people that know more than me, like Jordan Peterson or Weinstein or whatever. Like that, they would say like that. It seems that, at least when it comes to the political and media class of this sort of neoliberal, let's call it woke again, just for simplicity's sake, it doesn't seem that authentic. Like what I question is how much they actually do care about the rights of people with different types of sexual identity, or how much they actually do care about different races, cultural groups. It doesn't make sense, because ultimately I think we all know that these kind of apparently neoliberal but self-regarding leftist thinkers and orators are ultimately undergirded by the same financial and corporate interests as everybody else. Still the military-industrial complex, it's still big pharma. So whenever you see, so that's why it becomes deeply hypocritical in times of war and health crisis, because ultimately they will advocate for the interests of the pharmaceutical companies when in a health crisis, notably and obviously the pandemic. In a war, all of the peace and love language sort of melts away and is replaced by the kind of patriotic language that would have totally would have belonged to the Republicans of the, you know, in the Iraq war period, of your Cheney, Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld language of like, you know, it's not patriotic to talk like that. You're going to allow Putin will be marching on NATO countries. Like you say, Greg, everything has flipped, and the part of the reason that it's flipped is because there was no certain moral values there in the bloody first place.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting to see, like, Ukraine's the best example, I think, of this, is to see people that were so anti-war accuse you of not being a patriot if you aren't supporting Ukraine. And it's like, it's not even our country. I always look over there and see that it's a fight among relatives. These are countries and we somehow, I think the United States is almost like a next door neighbor or a relative that's egging it on, and for our own reasons, I can't remember who it was, the Secretary of State saying, like, the good news is we're getting billions of dollars into our country, and he was talking about the upside of war is that we make profits off war. No one really has ever said that out loud.
Yeah,
and I think I don't even know if he even. Anthony, Blinken. I don't even know. I don't even know if he knew that he said it at the time. But he says, "Hey, we're doing great off this. Why are you guys complaining?" It's well, there's 500,000 people dead. But I want to touch on something you said, and this is going to be a generalization, but I don't care. I do think the reason why it's inauthentic is I do think, and maybe this is like a Jordan Peterson-y thing, kind of, but there's an empty hole when you see a lot of the really strident voices. There is something missing in their lives, and they fill that bucket up with this kind of purpose, which really isn't a purpose. It's just where they place their emotional meaning for attention. So they get the attention for whatever screaming they're doing. And I think at the end of the day, they're not really happy people. They haven't found peace in their lives, in their family life, and it might not even be their fault. It could be our society has created a weird environment where some people can't find meaning anymore and are lost. And so they put it in these, the false idols of politics. I mean, that politics becomes their religion, but the only problem with their religion is that there's no forgiveness. So that's the wokeism is a religion without forgiveness. If you violate the original sin of oppression, your ancestors are guilty, whether it's Jews or it's whites in the United States. There's no forgiveness. So you constantly have to take on the role of oppressor. It is a religion without confession or without forgiveness. But I think people treat it as a religion until maybe I hope that, like, there's so many young people that are into this kind of phase, and I can't help but think it's filling up something in their lives that isn't being filled by other things. And I think it's relationships. I think a lot of these people do not have relationships in their lives, people they can talk to. Because like a friend would tell you, Greg, you shouldn't be gluing your hands to a painting, or why are you blocking traffic of people who are trying to get to work? Friends would actually say that to you, but it seems like that's missing in people's lives. You need somebody to tell you you're being an idiot, even though they say, I admire the cause, but that in Gaza, they don't care if you're blocking traffic.
I have
Does that make sense?
yes, it does, and I have some thoughts on that, as you might imagine, Greg. Just because I don't know anything about a subject, that doesn't mean I won't have an opinion on it. And I think it's a kind of natural endpoint to obsessive individualism, the kind of culturally immersive narcissism that, of course, by its nature, we must all fall to a degree prey to. And I would say that part of my own journey is my own wrestling with that kind of locked-in solipsism, as if you're wearing an Oculus or some VR helmet, where you're just obsessed continually with self. If a culture stripped of God, stripped of community, stripped of patriotism, stripped of failure, a family offers you only, as the only sort of the optimal experience is self-fulfillment. You fulfill your own sexual identity, your own gender identity, your own cultural or racial identity. These are all beautiful and noble ideas. People's sexuality is beautiful. People's culture is beautiful. I always take recourse to to ethnographics and anthropology and think, well, how did we live for tens of thousands or possibly hundreds of thousands of years? Small groups of 100 or 200 people that would have interacted with other tribal groups, perhaps through trade, perhaps sometimes through warfare. But there's nothing in our evolution that has prepared us to be confronted with a variety of cultures and being told that that culture is adverse to us. This is something that was written about extensively, notably by Edward Said, who, in his book, what was that called? Orientalism, sort of pointed out how the West was condemnatory of Eastern culture and the post-Ottoman Empire Islamic culture, that we assumed that our cultural trajectory was better. And he, as a sort of a Muslim living in the West, sort of said, well, there's different perspectives. We're not allowing people to have a different perspective on reality. We've reached the point now where people are happy to say there's no such thing as God. To sort of mangle C.S. Lewis, the rationalism that we use to posit that there can be no God is itself evolved from a godless set of meaningless processes, that a set of random processes led to a consciousness that is able to ascertain that there is no meaning and no purpose in the world. And I think that when you live in a world where all that matters is the fulfillment of your own desires, the avoidance of your own fears, so you end up with these odd cultural movements and artifacts which, as you say, take on the practices, aesthetics and appearance of a religion. Zeal, evangelism, certainty, but without the important valves and checks that are embedded in religions to ensure that we don't regard one's individual identity as the summit and apex of all potential experience. All of us are temporal expressions of something greater, and that can be used to mobilize people to fight for a nation. That can be used to turn people into racists. That can be used for a whole variety of things. But what it could be better utilized for is our life should be dedicated to service, and when inevitably, because of biology and because of cultural conditioning, we start thinking the only thing that matters is what Russell wants, this is a time to start employing some principles to get myself out of that illusion. But no one will do that now, because galvanized, evangelical, awakened people are a threat to the globalist establishment elites that are able to implement their goals and agenda because of this disparate and atomized population.
Many switch in, switch on, switch off. Many switch in, switch on, switch off, switch on. Many switch in, switch on, switch off. Many switch in, switch on, switch off.